So, Spider-Man No Way Home. I'm about to see it in literally like an hour. I'm so excited. Like, it doesn't even feel real. It's like, this sounds so stupid. Here's what I know. I know that, someone dies. Multiple people maybe. Like, I don't know. But someone I care about, at least one person is gonna die. So that's great. I'm interested to see if, Daredevil's in it. Venom might be in it. I don't know. We'll see. It's gonna be really exciting. And obviously Andrew and Toby might be in it. I think they're gonna be in it. Which is like, I don't even know how to process that. But I'm real excited. Yes, I am. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be so great. I'm so excited to see Betty. I love Betty. I'm so excited to see Betty. I'm so excited to see Flash. And obviously the rest of them, but like those two like background characters specifically, super excited to see. I hope Flash gets a redemption arc. Yeah. People have been saying that it's like one of the best MCU movies and that it's one of the best Spider-Man movies. Like right up there with Into the Spider-Verse. So that's great. And they've also been saying that it's like devastatingly sad. They've also been saying that Tom's performance is incredible. So that's great. And apparently the ending's really sad. I'm just gonna be so happy watching it. That's simply it. I'm super excited. So when I return, I will have seen the movie. This movie sucks. Okay, so I just saw No Way Home. The first like hour of the movie it was so funny. Like the whole theater was like cracking up and it was like the best energy, and it was like a sold out theater, so it was so nice to like be there, especially on like opening night with people who you know are like into it. It was when I can't remember. May died. Like, what do you mean? So May died. May died, and that's really when the tone shifted. Because like before that, you know, it was all goofy and like he figured out how to like save Doc Ock and stuff. But then like Green Goblin turned and he killed May. But then Peter thought it was his, and she gave him the "with great power comes great responsibility" speech, and it was just so, like, everything after that was just like downhill. There's no words, but I'm gonna say a lot of words. It's just, this movie just doesn't seem real. It's like, since literally like August, I guess, is when it really started like getting intense. There have been rumors and like theories about what's gonna happen. And it's always just like felt like none of this is gonna happen, right? Like this is just like a dream. But it literally, that was the movie. Okay, so I tried to record this like actual review part a few times now, and I'm really struggling to do it very succinctly. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm not really gonna talk about like this movie. It was like specific details, because like I tried to like explain the whole plot and it was like took way too long, and it took me like 20 minutes until I stopped and I was like, I need to redo this. So I just need to talk about a few scenes, and then I want to talk about the movie just as a whole in general in the whatever. So first of all, May's death. This scene was acted so well, written so well, set up so well, and I think it was just like super satisfying. Any complaints that people had of Tom Holland's trilogy are completely just like undone by this movie, because like people would be like, why didn't he have an Uncle Ben moment? And that was this moment, and it was done so well that it didn't feel like an exact remake of Uncle Ben's death. It felt different, and it felt like, to me, it felt more sad and more impactful because we actually had previous movies leading up to her death that we got to know her and actually love her as a character rather than just be sad because Peter is sad about it. Like, Marissa Tomei's acting and Tom Holland's acting was insane. The way that she was literally dying, but she used her final moments to like act like she was okay and deliver this speech, and then she died right after it. Literally the next scene is when Toby and Andrew showed up, and like this few like sequence of scenes leading up to the final battle was so great. Like, I can't even explain it. It was just paced so well, and it gave it time to like just, it wasn't like rushed into the final battle. They just got to like be the Spider-Man and be their own individual Spider-Man, and it was so good. Andrew and Toby show up and they're like, hey, we're here, and it was really funny what Andrew did. There's some like deep heart-to-heart moments with Spider-Man, but then they also got to like laugh together, and then they also got to be in the lab together. It was just so perfect. The MJ falling scene gave so much more depth to Andrew's character, because it was like he had his 2 movies, it's done, but like this, I'm so glad he was in this movie because he was able to like not like redeem himself, because he didn't need to redeem himself. It wasn't his fault that Gwen died, but it was able like for himself to kind of get some like inner peace with that. And anytime he would think about Gwen, I'm sure he was like, but I did save this other Peter's Gwen, even though it's like MJ, you know. I just thought that was really like sweet that they took the time to do that. It was just really good. The scene when Toby stops Tom from like killing Green Goblin, and he was just like, don't do it, I promise that you're gonna regret this if you do it. I'm stopping you from making the mistakes because I've made this mistake, and Mr. Andrew Garfield, he's made this mistake too, so like we're gonna stop you from doing this. And then he got stabbed, but he didn't die. But that was a little goofy moment that I don't really need to get into, but that was a little bit of trauma. Ooh, this is the part I want to talk about the most. Peter decided, for the sake of the multiverse, the sake of the universe, the sake of the world, I don't care, that he was gonna let everybody who ever met him in his life forget who he was. So he's literally losing everybody, and he decides to make that decision. And also I want to talk about Peter Parker and Doctor Strange's like bond in this movie. Dare I say it's better than Tony and Peter? Like, I really think it is. It felt like Doctor Strange was teaching Peter, whereas when it was like Tony, it felt like Tony was scolding Peter for doing stuff that even Tony didn't have like the wisdom to understand. But Doctor Strange is, first of all, super wise. Even in this movie he did like scold Peter a little bit, but it was about like stuff he understood. It was like multiverse spell stuff. But anyway, back to the movie then. Like the scene of him like hugging the other Spider-Man, I don't know, there were just so many scenes in this movie that were just like really sweet, like when they all did their poses together, and it was just really, really cool. I cried twice, maybe 3 times, but like 2 real cries. I cried when May died, just because I was really sad. I shed a tear when Andrew and Toby showed up, but it was just like, I'm excited, like there was like a tear. But then I sobbed. I needed tissues. I was crying when everyone forgot who Peter was. And he's like, my name's Peter Parker, and I would like a coffee, please. It was just like devastating. And I don't think I've ever cried that hard. That's a lie. It's very rare that I cry that hard. And like, never cried that hard in a movie theater. I don't think I've ever cried in a movie theater before this movie. It was just so sad that his best friends didn't remember him, and his girlfriend didn't remember him, and he's really just alone. is when Peter walked into the empty apartment, because on one hand it was like, I'm pretty sure he's 17. I don't know, he might be 18 in this movie. He's a senior. And so like he's like in this apartment all alone, and he's literally like, he's still a kid, and he puts the Lego figure down, which is like the first thing. That was like how we were introduced to Ned in Homecoming, and we see him like, he's still getting out there and he's still being Spider-Man because it's what people need. And like on one hand it was just so sad, because that was like, he's alone in his apartment and he's out being Spider-Man and he's alone. But then on the other hand, it was like, it felt so nostalgic, because that feels like what the Tobey Maguire movies were. Just him, he doesn't have anyone, he just got an apartment, and he's going on being Spider-Man. I'm so excited to see what's next, because apparently Spider-Man 4 has been confirmed. So, excited to see what that's about. As for overall stuff, I think this movie really changed my mind about a lot of stuff. I wasn't really like sure which Spider-Man movies I liked the most. Like Tobey's movies are like, they're good, they're like classics or whatever, but like I'm not a big fan of the characters in that movie or in those movies. And then Andrew's movies, I love Andrew's Peter Parker, and this movie even like confirmed that more. I loved his Peter Parker, and I liked his movies, but some of the writing was a little weird, and the second one's a little iffy, but like I still enjoy them, and I still enjoyed watching them. But and then I got to like Tom's movies, and I was like, yeah, I like them. There's just like, they just feel like goofy like teenage movies. But this movie really did a good job to not only like tie that all together, but it's just like, Tom's movies are definitely my favorite now. In my video where I talked about all the Spider-Man movies, my 2 complaints about Tom's movies was, first of all, that there was no swinging around the city, which they did it in this movie. Not only did they like do it at the very beginning when he's running from the helicopters, they also did it when all 3 Spider-Men were there and they were fighting at the Statue of Liberty, and they were all 3 like swinging around. But they also did it at the very end, the very last scene, when you're like sobbing and devastated. He's just swinging around. My second complaint was that like Tony Stark was such a figure in his movies, but it was more so that like it didn't feel like Peter was doing it. Like, he didn't feel like, I don't want to say he didn't feel like Spider-Man, but like he was using Tony Stark's technology as his suit, and Tony was there in his whole first movie just like putting his nose in. Can you tell I'm not a big Tony Stark fan? You know, he made his own new suit and he was still out doing it, and I think it was just, it's a perfect movie, and I have no complaints about his trilogy anymore. So I don't know, it was just a really good movie, and I could talk about it like all day. And TikTok is having a field day with these edits. Guys, they're not funny, I'm not having a good time. Just quickly before I end this video, I just need to say The Amazing Spider-Man 3 needs to happen. It's been trending on Twitter, and I really think it could happen. I think there's been like I've heard rumors about it, but like I don't know if they're actually true. But if it has a good script, this could literally be so good, because Andrew Garfield completely understands how to play Peter. He just was not given the right opportunity with that script. So yeah, make it happen. I love this movie, and I will not shut up about it. Bye.